Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for the very last match of the day. We are on the third day in the round of 32 here for Season 3 of the WCS Premier League, and one spot left for Group C. We did have Jaedong move on. Maybe you could argue a couple bumps, or people saying, "Oh man, it's looking a little scary against ShoWTimE," but in the end, he walked out smiling, as we just saw before the break, and now it's up to ShoWTimE versus Sen. We just saw ShoWTimE. Let's talk about him a little bit. He played really well against Jaedong. I mean, especially that game too. Like, he showed his stuff. He showed that when some people were saying, "Ooh, is it possible that Jaedong doesn't go out at first?" There was a reason for that, but he still has to play another match. Where do you think he stands?
I think he's the favorite going into this. I think you have to look at his performance in particular, but also just his result as of late. I mean, he's number 43 in WCS. He's the next up after Jaedong, with a glimmer of hope. Obviously, they both have to do exceedingly well in this season. And to make matters worse, he's already played Sen. And in that series, Sen did have his opportunities, but it was like his opportunities as the underdog. In each of the fights, it was like, oh, this could go well for Sen. It was never like, this could go well for ShoWTimE. So I feel like ShoWTimE's got to have confidence. He's played a lot of PvZ today, by the way. So he's he's definitely warmed up, as it were. And this match is the one that he has to hope. I mean, not even hope, but he really has to dial it in here.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, what do you think? Do you think earlier when we were talking, Sen, obviously the fact that he's a veteran has been showing he's been able to play patiently too, as you guys gave him credit for in the last match against, or as you gave credit to ShoWTimE rather, in the last match against Jaedong. But Sen, is that going to be enough for him just to be patient and try to play a little bit more standard from the back foot in some cases?
I feel like Sen has to go crazy. He has to go really crazy, to be honest. I feel like if he goes into a normal macro game against ShoWTimE's just... He's shown that he can do that against the best of the best here with Jaedong. And I feel like if Sen goes into a normal macro game with him, he's going to struggle a lot. If Sen does something weird, maybe a weird unit composition or a quick pull, or even like the bust that we saw him do against Hero Marine with like Roaches, Banelings, Zerglings, something like that, Nidus, it has to be something. If he goes into a normal macro game, as we said, I don't feel like he's the same level as ShoWTimE, so he has to do something.
Now, obviously Sen had the chance to watch that whole last match against Jaedong, and you got to see, as you mentioned, ShoWTimE playing very well against Jaedong at a whole level, when you look at the game holistically. But at the same time, Game 3 got a little crazy, right? I mean, for both players, do you think that's going to throw Sen a little bit for a loop? Like, oh boy, like he's willing to take those risks.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you see... That is guts of guts, man. That is incredible. It's Game 3. It's not like Terraform's a terrible PvZ map where it's like, well, I have to all in because I have no chance otherwise. It's just him making a call and saying, I wager Jaedong's going to go like 3 hatch before pool here, or just very conservative hatch first, these kind of things. And he's willing to put it on the line. The question is, though, and I wonder if Sen wonders this too, okay, you did it with a series to lose. Will you do it with nothing else? If ShoWTimE or Sen loses here, that's it. You're out of round of 32. No more you in 2015. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, for both players, you bring up a good point. Again, I mean, if you look at it, it's like maybe it was worth the gamble, because if you move on in that fashion, it's a great story. But if not, it's like, oh, it was worth the shot, but I had another match against Sen. So Sen's got a lot to think about here, and in some ways, maybe better not to think about that last match you just saw for ShoWTimE versus Jaedong. Just try to play his game. Of course, he's had some time to reflect on their first match that he lost to ShoWTimE, so maybe that will come in handy for Sen to kind of being able to reflect on that.
Yeah, Sen was already scared of proxy gates, to be honest. We saw on the set that he did play against ShoWTimE, he did like a very early drone scout at like a normal coda position where double gates are. Now that he saw that he did it against Jaedong in a decider match, that's going to play into ShoWTimE's favor now. ShoWTimE's saying, you know what? I'll do anything. You think I play super safe? You think I play conservative? I'll throw a proxy gate. PvZ, nonetheless. So that's great going into his favor. And I don't think he's too rattled at all. We see him just calmly washing his hair with that shampoo bottle. But I ran into him backstage, and he just gave me a smile like, yeah, it's going to happen, whatever. And he just kind of laughs it off, which is a great way, You don't want to beat yourself up. You don't want to be like, man, I had that game. I could have won. What did I do? So I think he's going to have a great mindset going into the set.
Yeah, I saw him walking back too, and I was waiting for this to see what we were going to get in terms of maps, if there were going to be any unique vetoes or picks. But it looks like generally we've had the same pattern today. Yeah. Now, Terraform does show up, though, as that third game again. It's the one that was left.
I would love to see it go to the third map just to see like the mind games. Yeah, like where is Sen's Overlords going to actually scout, to be honest.
That would be crazy, man. I mean, from the spectator standpoint, it would be insane if we go to the third map and everyone just sitting in their tents like, oh my goodness, is going to be a repeat? And
if he did it, can you imagine if he actually did it?
so crazy. Like, proxy gates, by the way, against Zerg is typically speaking really bad. Like, if they see it on any level at all, it's so easy for them to defend and win from that position. But it was really cool that he put it in base like that, where an Overlord would not go, and had a really good chance to beat Jaedong there.
Yeah, ShoWTimE.
If he did it against Sen again, man, I would eat my hat that I'm not wearing.
Yeah.
Like, that'd just be crazy.
It would be nuts, but it would be sweet to watch, of course, for those of us watching in studio and at home. ShoWTimE just trying to get rid of any other nerves that might be left, of course, even if he's not rattled from the last game. As we've been mentioning for all of you at home, if you're just tuning in, this is the last match. It's the last chance for both players to make it through. And as we saw earlier in the day, ShoWTimE's the next up after Jaedong in terms of WCS points past rank 16 for the players we have this week. He also has that glimmer of hope, like you said, in control if he goes to the finals, if he wins the season. And in order to do that, he needs to stay alive here from Group C. Well, we'll be kicking things off on Cactus Valley, and it'll be interesting how that pans out.
Yeah, especially because Sen saw a long game.
Yeah.
Like, he should know pretty much where he's at on this map as far as build orders. And it's going to be interesting. Like, it's up to Sen. What is Sen going to do to throw him off in my eyes? Especially because he just saw, what was it, like a 30-minute, 40-minute game?
It went quite
I'd
a
be
while.
pretty disappointed if we saw the same old, like,
Zergling Hydra
Ling
push.
Hydra, Roach Hydra into or not Swarmhost, excuse me, but Viper. Like, everything about ShoWTimE's play is already leaning in that direction. Like, I'm going to have Blink Stalker Sentry, so I'll deflect the early aggression. I automatically go Templar regardless of what you're doing. Like, everything about his playstyle, and the kind of struggle there is this something Rotterdam said yesterday. All of that's pretty good anyways against most things you're going to do, but there definitely are things you can do to try and take advantage of that with that information, and I don't feel like Sen did that for the most part in his last series against him. With him now having watched him play Jaedong, having that match earlier digested, I hope to see different things from him.
Yeah, it'd be really nice to see him adapt, and again, then that would really reinforce the fact that we were mentioning he's a veteran. He knows how to really hang on to these games, adapt to his opponents. Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, just one spot left for these two players, and Sen has had some time. We'll see if he can bring anything new and interesting against ShoWTimE as we go into the game with Nate and Roddy.
Is it going to be ShoWTimE, or will it be Sen time, Roddy, as we move into the final series of the day?
I have missed these jokes so much, Nate. I can't even explain it to you. It's going to be a really good series. The first series of the day is going to be the same one as the last one, as of course they've already played against each other before. ShoWTimE looked very solid in that series, but you know, Sen made it close, and once a close series could eventually end up to another close series, and maybe it can even flip the other way around this time.
Yeah, I do like what the boys at the desk were saying. I would be pretty surprised if ShoWTimE decided to throw some proxy cheese out there. I'm sure after that last series, Sen will be keeping his eyes open for any shenanigans in the early game.
And I also kind of think that Sen would even appreciate stuff like that. Like, yes, please try to cheese me or
I'd
something.
love a free win.
Yeah, or at least like I'd like a crazy game against you, because if I have to play super straight up, like if I can't kill you with the first push, it's going to be pretty damn difficult regardless to kill your Blink Stalker Sentry higher, you know, a composition of eventually add whatever you want as a Protoss player once you're on 4 bases, because the world is your oyster. Clams and cockles too.
Yeah, there's a lot of
You
things.
don't get that reference, Nate.
I'm sorry, Kev. I'm sorry. I'm not a seafood guy, but there's a lot. There's a lot in play here as we move towards this last series. Both of these players fighting for their lives here in the World Championship Series Premier League, potentially going home or going to Poland.
Oh, that was so funny for about 80% of the interweb, Nate. You have no idea.
I'm glad I can entertain you, Kev.
All right, we're about to go and hop into game number 1 that is going to be played on Cactus Valley. Sen vs ShoWTimE should be really good. Taiwan versus Germany. We've seen plenty of PvZs today. I still like the matchup. Hopefully you as well, Nate, as my fellow Terran brother, of course. I still do think that this matchup came a long way. In the old days, always Broodlord in faster. It became so much more fun to watch, and there's so much more variety in it these days.
Especially without the massive swarm host sieges that we used to see, really slow games. But it's all about the excitement here in PvZ in the World Championship Series as we kick off the final best of 3. In the top left, we have our Taiwanese Zerg player. In the blue, he is Sen, playing his 3rd match against a German player today in Group C.
Yep, and on the right top side, of course, this is a German player in question. He is a 2-time EBS champion. It is ShoWTimE. hailing from Germany. Very solid, of course, wants to repeat that amazing run he had in WCS Premier League Season 1. I think it's safe to say, Nate, that was by far and away the biggest achievement of his career. All EPS jokes aside, semi-finals of WCS Premier League, you know, that's something that people will remember outside of Germany as well.
Yeah, he had a really good run, and, you know, it shows when you look at the rankings of this group, statistically speaking. Okay, makes sense that Jaedong had the most points. He gets out of the group in first place. Then you look at ShoWTimE, you're like, okay, well, I'm expecting, you know, based on his previous performance, he's the guy that should get out. And if Sen brings his A game, he's a big threat to that. You know, Hero Marine showed up, but wasn't quite sharp enough to really handle a lot of those, you know, intense, fast Zerg players in these series.
Yeah, I think he was a little bit nervous as well. I've seen Hero Marine play better, Terran versus Zerg, and I know that he can do better, and he's still a very talented player. And I think with Legacy of the Void on the horizon, yeah. I was like, am I saying that right? It's like, yeah, I was about to say. Pull a Carmack almost.
It's on the horizon.
Yes. I think we're going to see a lot more of Hero Marine, so nothing to worry about if you are a big supporter of him. For now, it's going to be Nexus first for ShoWTimE. That is already a little bit different than we saw in some of his previous games, where he likes to go, you know, gateway expand. Of course, Cactus Valley is a large 4-player map, so there's absolutely nothing wrong with Nexus first. It's even a Nexus first into gate, so it's a very greedy build. But the same can be said for Sen. Sen is also very greedy. And the interesting thing is, Nate, he's expanding towards ShoWTimE.
Yeah, this is what I wanted. I was very curious because this is all happening at a phase in the game. It's too early for Sen to know where ShoWTimE spawned, right? Since his first Overlord didn't go to his base. Does this third base positioning have any potential repercussions as the game progresses forward? Will it be easier for ShoWTimE to push, or will it be easier for Sen to be maybe aggressive himself?
Yeah, I mean, it can go both ways. It truly depends on how they want to play it, but if you truly want to do something about that base, if you're ShoWTimE, then you also know you're extremely committed to that build. There is no such thing as like, let me just test the waters and see if I can do something about it. Because then if you fail, the counterattack is going to be very strong.
Because it can hit you so fast.
Exactly, and it's going to hit you a lot harder than it normally would. So I think it's shaping up to be an interesting game. What I think would be quite strong here for ShoWTimE is a Stargate opening with an Oracle, because I find it very unlikely that Sen would have multiple queens in every base and spore crawlers in every base, so I would really appreciate an Oracle here. And
considering how late the spawning pool is, having a lot of queens is tough, and the spore crawlers are an additionally expensive investment to make this early in the game.
And it's hard to connect the second to the third base, so I would really like to see a Stargate. But so far there's a Stalker on the way. Could be Stalker into Stargate, but maybe it's just going to be some gateway pressure then. What is it going to be, ShoWTimE? And you know, I'm not even a fan of Oracles, but this just looked like a good Oracle opening to me, or at least, you know,
what are the prospects of some potentially just aggressive gateway play? Could we see one of those 3-gate pressures with sentries, you recall back, take a third, or is this sort of like a 2-base setup? Has ShoWTimE shown too much 2-base in this group?
That's a temporary full wall up. It's like he's paranoid.
No, I think his Zealot's blocking it. He can squeeze by the Zealot.
But, yeah, sorry, I missed that one. I'm not sure. I don't think ShoWTimE is, you know, particularly well known for his 2-base all-ins. He did it, of course, on Iron Fortress. That was the only game that he lost against Sen earlier today. There are 2 more gateways being wiped in now. One is, of course, the obvious one. Okay, it's going to be 4-gate pressure. 5 gates. Wow. Okay, well, that changes things a little bit.
I asked about 3. I was not expecting 5 gateways.
7.
Oh boy!
So it's again a 7-gate. This time, however, it's not a 7-gate +1, so it's going to hit a lot faster and a lot harder. You know, before on Iron Fortress, it was a 4-gate pressure that kind of failed, transitioned into a 7-gate +1. This is a straight-up 7-gate. This scenario is very similar to the legendary game between Scarlet and Dongregul, where, you know, there's just no gas for the Zerg. This is going to be quite hard to deal with for Sen. Sen needs to start making units immediately. He needs spine crawlers in the right positions, but if you ask me what is the right position now, I wouldn't even be able to tell you, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a very strong attack coming in, and I mean, I only have so much experience with, you know, 7-gate, 8-gate type builds. Unfortunately, Huck's not casting this one, Roddy.
You know, if I was ShoWTimE right now, I would wipe in 4 or 5 Stalkers first. There we go, 3 Stalkers being wiped in, and after that you'll start getting Zealots. But you want to get 4, 5, 6 Stalkers, because in this moment, you know, the only thing he's working with are slow Zerglings, and Stalkers are phenomenal against slow links as long as they won't be surrounded. That is, of course, the most important thing is ShoWTimE, don't get your Stalkers get surrounded.
Yeah, and Zerglings are trying to hit from behind and pick off some of these pylons that are being used to power the warp-in reinforcements. But there's a pretty good chain of pylons. Now, Zergling speed's about to finish. There's a lot of Zerglings in production. How many does he need to actually stop this attack?
Infinity, Nate. Infinity. He's going to need a lot of them. This is very smart. Now he's getting Zealots to protect the Stalkers. Stalkers are a little bit exposed, though. I think this is a very good engagement for Sen. And he can't even recall. I think a lot of Stalkers are going to die. Sen has just shut this down, Nate.
Yeah, no recall. Well, everything just died.
Yeah, ShoWTimE
that
knows
look of defeat
it, man.
on his face.
ShoWTimE knows it. That should have never gone like that. The Zealots are supposed to hog the Stalkers. You know, like their brothers. They're supposed to protect them. Zerglings cannot wrap around Stalkers if there are Zealots standing next and in between them. But these were just 4 or 5 Stalkers on its own. And Sen, man, don't give him an opportunity. He jumped on it immediately. He couldn't have done that any better. Very well done by Sen, and obviously a little bit sloppy by ShoWTimE.
Yeah, losing a lot of forces, a lot of pylons as well, and forced back.
God.
And just now taking the rest of his gases. What does he do? He's got, I think, 40 probes.
I have no idea. The moment you're down 10 workers and you have absolutely no tech,
oh no!
a little bit late.
The Zerglings slipped by the wall. They managed to get on top of some of the sentries, forcing out even more of their energy to be used.
Whenever I see this happen right now, I have the voice of Dario in my mind saying like, oh, it's actually okay to let a couple Zerglings squeeze by. And in this case, Dario was right, because those 4 or 5
I guess
links,
it trims the fat a little bit.
Yeah. You know, Dr. Dario is often right.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind hearing TLO's voice in my head from time to time.
Well, I've watched the little highlight video of Home Circuit Cup like 17 times, so.
Whoa, trying to grab some more of those links with those force fields. Almost a reasonable donut.
I have no idea what ShoWTimE is supposed to do right now, though. Like you mentioned, he doesn't have a Twilight, doesn't have a Robo. Does he go up
And
to
there's
3
a Hydra
bases?
den on the way.
Yeah.
There's no tech on the map for ShoWTimE. He has no tech.
Well, I kind of feel that ShoWTimE is going to make another 7-gate attack, but he probably doesn't have a whole lot of faith in this one, Nate, and I can't blame him. Even though the Hydras are late, but Roaches are already phenomenal against this army because it's only Zealots and Sentries. Of course, Sen could still technically mess this up. You know, Protoss have done crazier things than this.
Yeah, I've experienced a lot of that pain myself, Kev, as these Zealots continue to push you. But Spine
great
Crawlers are
hold position.
finishing. The Spore Crawler actually hitting the Mothership core and forcing it back. Using these drones to hold position and block, like you mentioned. Everything is going so well. Now the pylons done. Now Stalkers are getting warped in. Drones are actually being pulled off the line, so they can injure the economy a little bit here of Sen. But now that the Zealots are gone, it's such a seesaw of what he can actually afford to warp in.
Yeah, I mean, Sen is having the time of his life. He's still ahead by 9 workers. He has 23 Roaches. That's actually enough to do is a rush off creep and fight that Protoss army. Roaches are very beefy. These units, Sentries and Zealots, are just not good against Roaches in this particular scenario. Of course, there are moments where force fields can be very useful, but right now, I think Sen can just move forward, especially with a couple of Hydralisks moving in, and ShoWTimE knows it as well, that there is almost no saving this game. This Zerg army,
there's nowhere to go. So what does he do now?
you drop the Desperation Robotics facility.
What you can't? Is it too late to try to get a Dark Shrine? It's like
a Forge is a very weird choice, I think. I'm not sure. Maybe make a bunch of cannons, try to go up to 3 bases, but I would kind of say the Desperation Robo is your go-to move. But by the time that you have your first Robo units, the first Vipers are out as well.
Yeah, there's no siege tanks in this army to try to turtle behind or do anything weird with, so I'm honestly not sure what the best move here is. Sen is just so far ahead. He's getting his Infestation Pit, it's about to finish. He's got his Hydralisk range coming in, his Roach speed is finishing up, getting +1 attack, adding on more drones, adding on more Hydralisks. Everything is coming up Sen right now.
I think this is where you channel your inner Alfie and you just stay on 2 bases for 22 minutes and max out.
And just pray, just throw the deep ball.
Yep, Hail Mary. No, I think ShoWTimE seems to have a minor ambition of going up to... I don't understand the Forge and the +1. Like, +1 is absolutely not going to make a difference against all these Roaches and Hydras. You know?
That one upgrade will turn the tides, Roddy.
It's like, look at these Stalkers, they do 1 extra damage. I don't know, man.
Look at these Hydras. They'll be doing... I mean, that upgrade will finish first anyway. Like, there's no advantage to be gained here.
I mean, he's going to get a bigger army. Before, he could never win the fight. He has a lot of Sentries now. The only thing he got out of that recall is that now his Sentries have at least 1 more force field each. Some maybe even 2. So there's plenty of force field to work with. Force fields are good, Nate. And over the years...
Are they that good, Roddy?
Over the years, I would say, every once in a blue moon, Protoss has got a victory they perhaps didn't totally deserve because of a cheeky force field here and there. That's kind of what ShoWTimE is hoping for now, but... Sen, I love how Sen is playing this, man. Look at how he's setting himself up. All right, couple of units will get zoned out. You gotta just jump on this then immediately. You can't be careful. You gotta force the issue. You gotta push the issue and go for it.
Yeah, he does need to reforce field that bottom area. They are set up once again. Some of those units are leaking through the right side as he comes in to fight this army. The reinforcement. A lot of these units are just kind of move commanding. Actually, the Zealots tucked behind can't move. GG's called, and Sen picks up a pretty swift Game 1 victory off the back of that, well, failed 7 gateway push.
Man, this is almost a repeat of the first series of the day we saw. Back then we kicked things off on Iron Fortress, of course, but again, it was a gateway aggressive play by ShoWTimE that just didn't work, and it was a little different because back then it was in 2 stages, in 2 waves, and this time he really put all his eggs in one basket. It was that 7 gates straight up that was supposed to work, but all props to Sen, man. Sen stayed patient. He made links immediately and nothing but links as soon as he expected this. Sniped a pylon and I was like, okay, I'm not sure, but look at these stalkers, they're just too exposed.
Just completely caught out of position.
Yep.
And, the Zealots, they hold their own well enough, but they're not even backed up against a wall.
And what a great judgment call there by Sen though, because those Zealots are being wiped in, and if he messes that fight up and if he ends up losing 20 links, the game is over as well. But, he didn't hesitate for a second. And
he stayed cool.
Yeah, and that's why we often compliment players, We always say at the analysis desk as well, you can't be indecisive. If you feel there is a window of opportunity, if you see there's a moment, would you capture it, Nate? Would you let it slip?
I think you just got to take that chance, man. You can't give it up. He went for it.
Sen captured it.
Yeah.
I think he had mom spaghetti.
Yeah. Something of that sort.
Something,
even
mom spaghetti.
Even in these fights, like you said, the drones hold position, the Zealots are all derping around, the Spine Crawler, okay, it soaks up a lot of hits, but the second one finishes up and you can't force field spines away.
Yeah. By here it's pretty much over. That's why our technical producers showed it as well. The expression on ShoWTimE's face. Every Protoss knows if you open up with a 6-7 gate and you end up losing 5 stalkers like that, well, this is WCS. This is WCS Premier League Season 3, round of 32. It's a massive series for ShoWTimE. If you win it, you really got something to look forward to, right? You go to Poland in a couple weeks, you got so much motivation, so you're never going to just leave after your opening build doesn't really go the way you want.
There's too much on the line to just give up after one failed push.
But mentally, you kind of know, like, okay, I'm in a world of trouble right now.
You can feel, it's like in the back of your mind, yeah, this one's pretty much over. Gotta try.
Yep.
But not quite enough.
Your Protoss or you're not, Nate, so you gotta try.
If there's, as a Terran player, it's my job to say that, Protoss will always have a chance to come back. And you mentioned it with the force fields,
Yep. I mean, it is a comeback tool, but Sen played it out very well. Gotta give credits where credits are due. And I don't think Sen made a single mistake in that game. He just did pretty much everything right. And, if I take away one thing from game number 1 and even the earlier series we saw, is just don't cheese this guy, because that's kind of where he's still extremely good. Let him attack you. And ShoWTimE, you're so solid. Hawk and In Control complimented him on it as well.
Was great.
Yeah. He did pretty much everything right, made the right unit at the right time, thinking ahead of the situations as well, or scenarios, where he dropped the fleet beacon, got Phoenix range, even before he needed it. But if you're rich as a Protoss, ask yourself the question, what can I still lose to? Well, if it's a muta switch, he was ready for that kind of stuff. I loved it as well, what I saw from ShoWTimE. Whenever he's aggressive, it's just not working out for him, so I think it's safe to say there is no way ShoWTimE is going to do anything crazy or wonky. In game number 2 on Koda, it's going to be solid Blink Stalkers and Sentries.
And if there's a map for it, this is it. As we're loaded into game number 2 of the decider match of Group C here at the World Championship Series Season 3 Premier League, round of 32. In the bottom right, we have our German Protoss player. Down 0-1, he is ShoWTimE, trying to bring things back. No proxy gates, no madness in this series, Kev. But he has a lot to overcome from his Taiwanese opponent in the northwest, the Blue Zerg, Sen.
I've always felt a little bit that ShoWTimE is a newer generation of Hazuops. I don't know why. I think they listen to the same type of music as well, but they're very similar when it comes to the way they play Protoss. And most of the time they are very passive. Every now and then they throw in a cheese. But once the game goes past 3-4 bases, they just sit back and they almost never attack. We'll see how ShoWTimE is going to go with his first building this game on Koda. If it's going to be a gateway opening or a Nexus, it would be extremely risky to go a blind Nexus first. Again, with your tournament live on the line, he's not going to do that. It's going to be gateway on the low ground. That's a little safer.
So not taking the big risks.
No, I can't blame him. Like Cactus Valley, 4-player map, why not? And also, Nexus first into 7 gate. that's pretty much, you know, the hardest 7-gate you can go for.
Yeah.
So once again, extra compliments to Sen for defending it the way he did, because that's not easy.
And Sen checked his natural and his third base as well, looking for possible proxy locations. He went all the way out to that third base. And now the probe will come in. He'll see that it's a quick hatchery, so he has nothing to fear. You know, he doesn't need to rush up to any sort of defense, doesn't need to quickly finish off his wall. He can just freely expand and then probably take his gas after that, I'd imagine.
I think he has already dropped the fake pylon earlier today, so if he does it again, there is a good chance that Sen won't actually pull 7 or 8 drones. Sen did it early today, but Sen is like, well, fool me once, you know, shame on me, fool me twice, or shame on you, the other way around, Nate.
Something like that.
You know how it goes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could also just be like one of those...
Can't fool me again, right?
Yeah. You can't fool me. Pity the fool. That's what he means. Yeah, he's got it. He's got it on lock. He didn't pull 7 drones, is what we mean to say.
No.
He has not overcommitted to his defense of the bait pylon placed in his natural expansion. The Overlord sees the Nexus, and this tells Sen basically everything that he needs to know. No crazy fast aggression. He won't have to worry about any variety of one base play or super fast tech, because getting the Nexus that quick also means delaying the gas.
Of course, this is not a super greedy opening by Sen. It's not, you know, hatch pool like he did on Cactus Valley, but it's still gas loss, so it could be hatch pool into another hatch, and that's
It looks like he's trying. That probe is showing some love to that drone, just kind of block the path. Do not allow it to plant a hatchery.
Yeah, it's playing tag team.
Some of my favorite things about this map is that the word lockdown is literally on the third base, and I can use literally unironically in this instance. He has that third base locked down with a pylon now.
Todd loves it too. You know how much good old Todd loves it.
Well, Todd and I just have so much in common. Really.
Absolutely, Nate.
Cancels the pylon, so the third base can start now for Sen, but he did start his queens earlier, so it's delayed a little longer. Can't quite afford it. Now, what type of play does ShoWTimE want to make off 2 bases? Roddy, if he's going to go for that +2 Blink Stalker setup, how does he get there?
Probably just a soft pressure with 3 gateways. He could potentially drop a 4th gate as well, because he knows that the gas is going to be late, that speed is going to be late, but it just doesn't seem to be his thing, you know. Huck said it earlier today. Huck loves doing the 4-gate pressure, and I can't blame him. I personally, as a Protoss player, I love it as well. But it's just one of those things, you're either like good at it and confident with it, or you're not. And it just seems like whenever ShoWTimE is going for such, you know, aggressive openings, it doesn't seem to go his way. So I would almost say just let him get away with that greedy opening and do your own thing. Maybe a very, very soft 3-gate pressure, but then go up to 3 bases behind it and just try to stabilize on Blink Stalkers and Sentries. Because I think it's safe to say, if ShoWTimE stabilizes on Blink Stalker Sentry, he should be fine. Like,
yeah.
Because Sen doesn't think about the ultra late game. We see it as well. His Evo chambers are often super late. So just hold one time. And ShoWTimE is very good, I think, with sentries.
Just got to keep it together in this mid-game stage. Get everything set up. Try not to let Sen run free, you know, with drones or whatever it may be that he'd want to crank out very early on.
Good job there by the Overlord turning around. He's going to spot those 2 gateways in the main base. So that is, it's nice to know, but once again, I don't think it's rocket science that we will see a 3-gate into 3 base with Twilight and eventually a Robo. The question is, when will we build the Robo? Because if the Robo is going to be very late, if it's Twilight Forge into 8 gates and then Robo, there is a small chance that Sen maybe goes double Roach Warren with Tunneling Claws. That I think is actually a very good answer to these super late Robo builds, but we'll see. Maybe Sen doesn't feel the same way.
The burrow play when you don't have mobile detection is certainly a big threat for the Protoss players out there.
And by the time that the robotics facility finishes up, Protosses have to choose, right? Do you make Observer or do you make Immortals? You need both. And above all, you need multiple cannons. Sen decides to make 12 links. So that almost gives me the idea that he maybe wants to do something about this Nexus. But 12 links, Nate,
will it work?
It's not enough. Well, 24 links, this is a start. ShoWTimE needs to identify this. ShoWTimE needs to know this is coming. He needs a cannon there as quick as possible. The Mothership Core is very late. He's warping in 3 more sentries. Okay, this hallucinated Phoenix. Is Sen gonna avoid the hallucinated Phoenix in the middle of the map?
It's path right across. So he sees some of the extra Zerglings coming across.
Yeah,
ShoWTimE is aware of what's headed towards his base. How can he react, though? What are his options?
SimCity is all he needs. Like, he needs to protect that cannon. I like the position of the sentries a lot.
Nice.
This is very solid.
That's beautiful.
It's not enough DPS because you can always force field around the Nexus. I really like this for ShoWTimE. I think ShoWTimE should be able to keep his Nexus alive here, Nate.
Yeah, very, very solid play.
Man.
Hiding in that mineral line. And here we have Big Daddy Zealot blocking the door. The bouncer is in position.
I would have kind of liked to have at least one sentry behind. Oh my god!
Oh boy, sentries
Whoa!
get caught coming down trying to help out. The Zerglings are actually all over the sentries.
Oh,
Sen
God.
picking up all of
Oh, my God.
ShoWTimE's forces. Well, that went from great to bad real fast, Roddy.
From 0 to 100 real quick indeed, but a couple of sentries do survive. I'm still not sure if that was the best case scenario, because Sen could have also ran past the Zealot. There was nothing there.
Yeah.
Now in the end, it's 5 sentries for 47 Zerglings. I kind of think I like that trade if I'm ShoWTimE.
Yeah, he got the third, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the big deal, because during all that, Sen hadn't yet even started that Hydralisk Den, so
I
he's
think
far away from any useful upgrades.
I think it would have been a lot worse if all those Zerglings, or at least a bunch of Zerglings, would have ran into the main base, and then you split up the links between the main and the natural, and it becomes incredibly difficult for Protoss to have units everywhere. Of course, you know, jumping on the sentries, the idea was nice, and he got something out of it, but I'm just not sure if it's going to be enough. We'll see. Sen is setting himself up for a massive Hydra follow-up. If it works, congratulations, Sen. For the second time in 8 tries, you will make it to WCS Premier League round of 16. If it doesn't work, I think we're going to game 3. There's no in-between. There's no real follow-up for Sen. No Evo Chambers. I don't see Infestation Pit. He does drop a 4th hatchery, so that is something, but, you know...
16 Hydras will be coming out onto the map.
He really needs to do a lot with this.
And it's going to be very tricky. I mean, at the very least, what he gained from that earlier Zergling push, right? He took a lot of energy out of the existing sentries, and he also cut the number of force fields in half, basically, by killing all those sentries.
So in that regard, it was worth it. But of course, he slowed... Oh, this... Oh my god.
He sees
like, 3 of them.
Okay.
He should know by now.
Hydras. What are you doing?
There are Zerglings in the mix as well. Zerglings will try, of course, again to jump on this. This time, there is no cannon on the low ground. The cannon that InControl likes so much. The force fields so far I think are pretty good. I really love the whole position micro that a lot of these Protoss players use in this day and age, rather than just attack moving. So the units don't go too close to the force field. So far, so good for ShoWTimE.
Cleaned up all the Zerglings for
nothing.
Basically free, yeah. Pretty much.
Couple force fields, but maybe 2 Zealots. But
yeah, worth.
Yep. 30 links for 2 Zealots. Solid trade.
Now the Hydras are trying to make a move up here, but like you said, that whole position, actually, nothing is moving close enough to the force fields. Because ShoWTimE's thinking to himself, yeah, with time, my army just gets better and better. I move closer and closer to +2 attack and blink, which is what really opens the playing field for ShoWTimE to micro against this army.
It's starting to get a little bit awkward though, because Blink is not ready yet. Couple Stalk is taking a lot of damage. Finally, Blink does finish up, and Photon Overcharge is activated immediately in the 3rd base. I think it would have been better if a couple units would have been positioned somewhere else. Like, it's going to be really hard to walk down this ramp for ShoWTimE. He's in a good position, he just needs to actually get in a good position to fight. That is the most complicated issue now. Forward Blink, here we go. This is the moment. He wants to kill these Hydras, doesn't want to lose his 3rd base.
Well, he's trying to focus down that 3rd Nexus. He will kill it off. Sen getting to work on the forces here now as the Stalkers and Sentries hit from below. Lots of Guardian Shields activated to help against these upgradeless Hydras, but the Sentries do fall one by one. The Hydras doing everything that they can. We have an Immortal in production. The 3rd base restarts in the face of danger. Has Sen done the damage he needed to do though, Roddy?
I think it's very questionable, Nate. No, even, well, +1 missile attacks is on the way, but +3 is on the way already. The 4th base is the only thing he can sort of hold on to, but most of the time, ShoWTimE, on this moment, he's just going to counterattack immediately. He did use Time Warp and Photon Overcharge, so there is no get-out-of-free Jill card, as the Zerg players like to say. He has to be very careful, but the army right now, ShoWTimE, it's pretty strong. Is it strong enough to walk up a ramp and fight against Hydras? Maybe. It depends on the force fields then, I guess.
Yeah, it will be very difficult for either side, to say the least. The blink control need to be perfect. The positioning will need to be perfect from Sen.
You know, like, losing the Nexus always hurts, but he didn't really lose any of the workers, and I think that's the most important thing. He's still on 66 probes, and that's pretty solid. You know, there's nothing wrong with 66 workers for a Protoss that's on 3 bases. He's queuing up his first Immortal. The Phoenix has just seen that there is no Infestation Pit yet. There is no Hive on the way. Sen does, however, for the first time whenever he's doing this, he has a lot of production because of that 4th hatchery. He at least has 1 upgrade. That's better than 0. So it's going to get tricky, but I really like ShoWTimE's position, actually.
Yeah, I mean, with the upgrades especially, and that army composition rounding out so nicely, so many Blink Stalkers, the Immortals anchoring against the Roach backbone that's going to be mixed into this. I mean, realistically, if Sen could have one other thing to help him against this, what is it? Is it Blinding Cloud or Fungal?
Yeah, I think Blinding... Well, Fungal can be okay, but I feel most of the time when you want to win games with Fungo, I kind of feel you need better upgrades. And since he's down in upgrades, I'm worried that, you know, Sentries will still...
Okay, so you'd say Vipers would be, you know, if he could have one thing.
A combination of both would be the best.
Okay.
You know, abduct
if he was a rich boy.
Yeah, abducting the Immortal or two and then just rely on Blinding Clouds. But look at this Protoss army. Beautiful position this time for ShoWTimE to start the fight off with. Force fields, of course, just, you know, perfect. Couldn't really be any better.
Position makes that army look so fierce.
Yeah, I know.
Just kills everything and doesn't even flinch.
It's like we don't even have to run towards you to kill you. We just stand here and every now and then we shoot our lasers.
That's how all my games versus Protoss feel like, Roddy.
It's funny when, you know, all the Protoss jokes about A move, they gotta change them.
Yeah.
It's H move now, mate.
Yeah, man. All I do is press my H key and you watch your army die. My arms crossed.
It's gonna be very confusing when people hear F2H. Like, you know, like you pull all the units and then you tell all the units to stop moving. Exactly. New school Protoss micro, baby.
Redefining Protoss bias.
Sniping at fort base, ShoWTimE, of course, in a
And
great
this army
position.
doesn't look touchable.
How many stalkers is that? That's a ridiculous amount of stuff. 40! He has 40 stalkers!
Yeah, with 3 Immortals.
I love there's still one Ling on the map for Sen. Where is it? Let's find it.
Where's he hiding?
He's the captain! He's like, come on guys! Come on!
Join me, brothers!
Follow my lead! We can get him! And these Roaches and Hydras are like, you don't know what we have to deal with. He's like,
this guy.
He's like, no, I've been around since the start, man. I've taken down Nexuses, killed Sentries, got a Zealot. Just follow me. Have faith. And it's like,
I don't know, man.
I don't know, man. It's a lot of stalkers. Sen is going up to high. Sen has a lot of money. Why is he not spending the money? Can you tell me this, Nate?
I mean, I tried to read his mind, but he has a helmet on that prevents me from being able to do so.
He's like that superhero from the Avengers, right?
Something like that. Can't quite figure it out. That Zergling killed a pylon too.
Oh, the
added onto his resume.
Yeah. I confused my superhero. I don't understand why. I mean, maybe he wants to throw down an ultra. No, that doesn't make sense. He doesn't have upgrade. Like, what are you gonna make?
This army.
0/0 ultras would. I guess just Vipers then, but he has way too much money for Vipers.
What would have been awesome? He's gonna go for Vipers. What would have been awesome in my,
it was a saving guess then, I guess. And
in my Gold League Zerg world, I imagine that he starts Aspire with that Hive and just goes straight for Broodlords and just really throws the deep ball. He does start Aspire, but the Vipers are a little bit faster to get to.
Yeah, that is definitely the hope late game. I guess he just didn't want to build units. Oh, no cancel. I mean, he has 2,500 minerals, I guess.
Wow.
I love how there are 2 drones in that army as well. Those drones are really eager. They've been there for a while. They want to fight too.
With that one Ling. That one Ling is still alive, by the way, for those of you curious.
Of course, everyone's curious.
Still alive and kicking.
We got Billy the Marine. This is Geico the Zergling.
I can dig it. 3 Phoenix fly over. Hallucinated, trying to keep an eye on where this Zerg army is. This is a small area without creep spread.
With Vipers, ShoWTimE has to be a little bit careful.
Well, I mean, there's Templar. There's Storms. Yeah, hold position your Hydras under Storms.
Oh, those force fields were... Man, the combination of force fields and storm is so deadly against Roach Hydra. But we've got Vipers. Maybe a couple of ducks. No, double feedback instead.
Wow. Thankfully, not full energy. One of those weird times when you're like, well, I'm glad I didn't actually fill the energy on these.
Well, Guardian Shield is being popped. ShoWTimE has had enough this game. He's like, I'm not going to give you any more time. A couple of Blinding Clouds should go down, but Storm is doing so much damage.
Yeah, the Blinding Cloud's going to help push back. Abducts one of the Immortals, so getting something out of this. Burrow is on the way, more and more Roaches, but I mean, these guys are basically just throwing the same big armies at each other, but more and more Templar being mixed in. We could see Archons eventually added into this, but the Storm is really the moneymaker.
If I'm Sen right now, I'd start my Great Aspire immediately.
Yeah, it's on the way, Roddy. It's coming.
I mean, ShoWTimE has to be a tiny bit careful, because I do still think he's in a great position, but let's not forget about what happened on Cactus Valley. Often, the first fight against Broodlords, the Protoss will lose, and then normally they buy time because the Broodlords are so slow. Either way, big engagement going down now on the right side with a couple of Blinding Clouds and a lot of force fields. Seems like ShoWTimE is a little bit afraid, even though he's killed a lot.
Some of these Templar with energy have actually been picked off by the Roaches, and this is really, really nice, because those are like the scariest part of this army. A couple of Dark Templar being sent in from the left side, though. Yeah, that lone Zergling, if only he could see.
He's not going to die, is he?
No, he's safe. He's safe. But he also doesn't have his binoculars on, so he can't see that little shimmer.
Oh my God! They can go for the Hive. They can go for the Great Aspire as well. You kind of need this Hive, man. If you lose a Hive, no more Vipers. We've seen this scenario before. One Transfuse goes down. I think he should be able to save it, but he needs to start building Spines and Spores next to it.
Transfuse? Okay.
Yeah, he's got energy. He's just
Storms
waiting.
being
Oh
dropped
my
in
God.
that northeast area. More blinding clouds. Those expensive units are all still alive. A lot of storms available on these High Templar.
Ah, that's a good forward blink there. A lot of these roaches and hideouts will go down immediately. The Vipers were forgotten about as 2 Vipers die immediately. And Sen
5
just...
Broodlords on the way.
He just wants to buy time for those Broodlords. Where are they morphing? Over there on the north side of this battle. But I'm afraid Sen is just not going to be able to get a 4th base by the time he finally has Broodlords.
Yeah, it doesn't seem likely. He's doing everything he can to defend. Where are those Broodlords going to finish, by the way?
On the north side here.
Okay, so they're
It's a good
just
spot,
outside.
actually. I do like that, because how many times haven't we seen...
You can't just blink under that.
exactly. Just blink on them, and then we always say, like,
You know, if StarCraft let you, then he could throw away 40 Stalkers in an instant. Whoa, the Templar! That was... Actually, just threw away. He just actually threw away all of his storms.
But the most important thing for Sen, for ShoWTimE, is that he has denied a 4th base of Sen, and Sen is right now going to probably lose his hive as well. He's going to try to save it, but I think this time there's too much DPS in these Zealots and Dark Templars. Our German Protoss is playing this so well, so solid. You know, there's really no need for him to go for 7 gates. Just play like this. He could actually blink below them right now, Nate.
Yeah, I think when he
Blink
sees
below
these,
them.
he may consider doing that because he needs to
he's
run
gonna
from the
do it.
Roach Hydra anyway. Blinks under, 1 down, 2, 3, 4 Broodlords all destroyed. GG, ShoWTimE ties the series and keeps his hopes alive of going to Poland in the round of 16 here at the World Championship Series.
Another very solid long PvZ by ShoWTimE. There's no need for him.
Why? Yeah, exactly. Why would you even bother?
Like, sometimes it's just in your mind, it's like, hey, you know, technically speaking, if a Zerg goes castless 3 bases, I can do 4-gate pressure, and that's going to be really good for me. Or, you know, Nexus first into 7-gate. I know that's really hard for a Zerg to deal with, so as long as I don't mess up, I'll be fine. But then suddenly you do mess up once or twice, and it can just get to you. It can be a little bit frustrating, but I think right now, even if Sen tells him in the start of the game, hey, triple hatch gasless, what you gonna do about it? I think ShoWTimE will say absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Go ahead, do your thing. I'm just gonna make sentries and blink stalkers, and I'm just gonna try to survive, get +2, get blink, and take the game from there, because that is where I excel as a Protoss player, and he really does.
Yeah, it's just clean play, really. And the way that he used the hold position, he didn't give away anything to Sen in that game. And we even saw that in a little bit of the counter micro. Like, Sen tried to hold position his units. It's like, okay, well, I won't be baited into your force field. And he's like, actually, my army's still stronger, so I can kill you if you do that.
One of the most interesting moments of that previous game is still, though, that moment the Zerglings could have ran into the main base. And one more reason why I think it would have been very good to run into the main is because I don't think the Mothership Core was in position of the natural order main. I think it was hovering above the 3rd base somewhere. So I really think if you run in 20
It
links,
was by the 3rd.
Yeah, and the sentries, of course, could have eventually dropped the force field from the low ground. But I still think by then a lot of links could have run by and things could have been pretty ugly. Instead, Sen went for the sentries, which, you know, normally if you tell Zerg, hey, you can kill 5 sentries, they'll be like, yeah, cool, sign me up. But let's not forget that he made like 40 or so links. This was the follow-up big fight with all the Hydras, where he does get the Nexus, but we have to ask ourselves the question, at what cost, Natanios?
At a high price, Rotterdam has lost absolutely everything in this army, and we talked about how the +3 attack started right as this ended, and since the Hydra speed upgrade also finished during this fight, it was like, you're not going to run away with anything, especially against Blink Stalkers.
Game number 3 is going to be played on Terraform, a map where we saw a couple of wild strategies go up against each other the last time we were loaded in this map. This time, however, Nate, everything looks a little more
There are no probes
standard.
running across, Kevin.
No,
None at all. This is it. This is the deciding map. The final game tonight here. You're watching the World Championship Series Group C here in the round of 32 for Premier League in the Northwest. We have the blue Zerg player representing Taiwan. He is Sen, who is very difficult to kill in the early game, as we have learned, as he faces off against the red Protoss from Germany, ShoWTimE.
who is looking for his 4th appearance in the round of 16. It's surprising to see how long ShoWTimE has been around already. His first Premier League in 2013. I think that was a very surprising fact when I looked it up. It's like, man, I really don't remember ShoWTimE being like relevant in the European
It's
scene.
cool. It's cooler though when you think about the way that the World Championship Series system has changed. That we get to see these players in person so much earlier in the tournament.
That's
a
true.
lot of these guys that would make it to the round of 32, but usually never get any face time. Now we actually get to see them in person. We get a little bit easier understanding, and you know, he's grown on me. I think he's pretty cool.
No, he's a great guy. He's the new generation of Hazuops. you know, it was hard to have a scene without Hazuops, as Hazuops is a true Blizzard game specialist, moved on to the next Blizzard game.
He's done them all now.
Yeah.
He's actually done them all.
Yep.
And this is...
Yeah, he actually played in competitive Hearthstone, Warcraft, StarCraft, and now he's a professional Heroes of the Storm player. Hazuops is a true specialist.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see him in his new Overwatch team as well at some point or another.
Yeah. You know Hazu's going to be Overwatch BlizzCon material for sure.
So we have a very fast hatch tree being built at ShoWTimE's gold base. Kevin, well, what's going on?
Well, most likely this is going to be a good old Cats build, right? Where we're going to see a Queen morph as quick as possible from that gold base. Maybe a couple of drones will be transferred and a few drones will morph into Spine Crawlers. And then with a couple of Spine Crawlers and Queens and Zerglings, I think Sen is going to try to break the natural of ShoWTimE, and the moment a Protoss is on one base against Zerg, well, it's curtains, it's game over. However, the last time I saw this scenario, and this is a massive scout by the way, so important for ShoWTimE, he sees this, and now I wonder, what are you going to do about it? I think getting a cannon or getting a forge very quickly is very useful. Getting a couple of cannons on the low ground, I think that's always very useful. But the last time I saw Zerg do this, Nate, he tagged up to Lair and he went up to Hydralisk. And it was a Zerg against Liubao. I think it was sort of, actually, yeah, it was WCS Challenger. Sort of did it. He went for Hydralisk. I personally think just relying on basic units, staying on hatchery tag and just going for queens, spines, I think that's a better choice.
Yeah, that can... I guess it depends, right? Because you can never be too sure as the Protoss players. Once they get this contain on you, like, how does he really scout now?
Well, I think like if the Zerg has a very low economy, even if you're contained on 2 bases, you know, who cares? You can basically have 48 probes mining efficiently on 2 bases, and you're going to be able to go up to Colossus and stuff, or a lot of Immortals, and you should be fine.
Yeah. These builds were a lot scarier when Swarm Hosts were the old ones.
Exactly, like that's where it gets very scary. But right now I feel about Zerg, it's about hitting as hard and quick as possible. Don't give Protoss too much time. Don't give him time to stabilize.
How good is it that he sees it's just one extractor?
Well, it's so important that he sees the Roach War, Nate, because I think at first ShoWTimE was expecting the same thing as I was expecting, and that is Queens and Spines. Now ShoWTimE sees, he's like, Roaches? It's like, really? Roaches? Well, okay.
I mean, they build so close, right? They build so close to the base.
So it is scary, don't get me wrong, and Warp Gate is not even done yet. I told you all along, I want to see a Forge, man. I think like a cannon is good in every scenario. Now the Forge goes down, but it's in such a vulnerable position that it could eventually get picked off. The Queen is being brought over as well. How much energy do we have on the Mama Ship Core?
Not too much. 93, very close to being able to overcharge, but not quite there yet. The sentries with the force fields can try to buy time, but how much time do they need? What if he just goes into the main? Can he?
I'm very worried, actually. Yeah, there is a chance. It's hard to keep renewing this wall because there is almost no DPS in this Protoss army. Photon Overcharge is ready. This is the moment where you want to fight. I would even let my Mothership Core fight. Let it die. Who cares? Rebuild it with 100 energy. I think that's much better than keeping it around with 0 energy.
It'll actually have more energy if it dies now and is rebuilt.
Oh my god, a couple of units will stream through. There is no force field available. Probes being evacuated.
No. Trying to run. I mean, that main is walled off, but will it be enough? The sentry actually has to be killed. They can go. Oh yeah, they can go into the main. Well,
oh my god.
Oh boy, Sen may go to the round of 16 off the back of a very aggressive gold base push. Zerglings on top of the probes running back to that natural expansion, desperately trying to stay alive.
I would say it's not 100% over yet. There's going to be a cannon soon. It's still 2 bases. He needs to keep the Nexus alive though, but I don't think there is enough units. I kind of feel like you have to pull the probes back. But if you do that, do you have enough? I think this Nexus is going to die. And if the Nexus dies in the main base, as a 1-base Protoss, if I'm Sen right now and I kill this Nexus, and it is going to go down indeed. From this point on, Nate, I'd make drones. I'm happy.
And what a cataclysmic start to this game for ShoWTimE. All these sentries getting picked off. The Roaches still hanging tight. And
they can actually run into the natural now. There's only a single sentry there.
What do?
Like, you can kill a few more workers. ShoWTimE with only 12 probes left. Oh, I really felt he should have got a quicker forge, man. And Sen, after being in Premier League for 7 times and only making it into the round of 16 once, it seems like he's going to be able to do it again, Nate. He bounced
deep sigh out of ShoWTimE there.
He knows, man. He knows that this is one hell of an uphill battle from this point.
Yeah, against Zerg with a gold base, now going up to Lair. Like, how do you finish this, Kev? You want style points? You want, tell me, give me the style point option.
The style point option? Now you're asking me something, Nate. I would say 1 Ultralisk supported by 22 Queens.
That would be pretty hardcore.
That's stop.
And just like, you like stutter step the Ultralisk forward and just transfuse it.
And an army of WCS.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can dig that too.
Yeah, I think
Dig that too.
that's the ultimate style point. The much more realistic option, because they're playing for, you know, a lot of money, is just make a bunch of Hydralisk and break the front. Like, that is what I would do if there's no money on the line, you know?
Yeah.
But given that there is a round of 16 ticket on the line, I think the Hydralisk then is a slightly better option than a 2-base Ultralisk tag with a bunch of queens.
Yeah.
Even though I'm convinced, Nate, it would work.
Okay, as long as we agree on that.
Yeah,
I think Flying Locust would be a pretty funny way to end this. Just go behind the wall.
Actually, yeah, all jokes aside, that's not a bad suggestion at all. It would be very good. Because there is barely any DPS in this army of ShoWTimE.
Just bypass the cannons.
He can't even, or he stands right here on the left side.
Step, go, get something yes, okay, you got something.
If he would stand with Swarmers on the left side of where the sentries were right now,
Yeah,
you can just pop a bunch of locusts and you kill the main
Just
again.
kill the next. Every time you can afford to rebuild it, I kill it.
39 drones against 23 probes. It's been a very interesting year for ShoWTimE. He made it to the semi-finals of WCS Premier League Season 1. And everyone is like, well, we've got a new Protoss on the block, Nate. He is the coolest kid on the block right now. But yeah, after spotting the Hydras, ShoWTimE just knows it. He can't save this game anymore. And Sen, for the second time in his career, will make it to the round of 16.
Yeah, very well played and a well executed attack on that map. Terraform, one of the newer maps that we've had come into the Season 3 WCS map pool. As he advances, he'll be going to play in Poland in just a few weeks' time.
A crazy build there in game number 3, but it's smart by Sen to go for the Roach option. I think that's the least popular option of the 3, you know, going quick Hydras, relying on Queens and Spines, or trying to just bust as quick as possible with Roaches and Lynx, because he barely even used that gold base. That's basically a 1-base Roach bust.
Yeah,
but
in a weird way, it's also like proxy Roaches, because they got to go across the map so quickly.
No, that's it. Like it's not about that base being at the gold or not. There's like 2 drones mining there. That's not relevant. Yeah. It's basically a proxy Roach for us, which can be very good because the gateways are on the low ground. You know, they can be unpowered, and with the way that Protoss is open in this day and age, there's very little DPS to work with. But you know, he went for it, and I kind of feel that as a Protoss, if you scout it, I think you should just always get a quick forge. Because a field forge is good against everything.
Like Spine Queen kind of relies on the spines hit your wall that isn't cannons outside the range of the cannons. But in this instance, like a couple cannons would actually be enough to hold it off.
Yeah, but yeah, cannons would be good.
Could he have actually gotten them in time? I feel like I should at least ask that.
Yeah, I think if you go 1 gate, if you know that there is a proxy hatch, I think you can always get a forge if you want to. But you know, he scouted everything. ShoWTimE even scouted the Roach one. I think on that point, you know, that's when I was like, I bet he wishes he had a forge now, and that's when he threw down the forge as well, but it was just a little bit too late. Either way, it was a very fun day of StarCraft, but of course I want to hear what Sen has to say about his performance after finally making it into the round of 16 again.
We do have Sen here. Of course, all congratulations to you, Sen, moving on to the round of 16 once again here in the WCS Premier League. Let's start it right off the bat with the big question. You had to play ShoWTimE twice after a defeat in the very first match. What were your thoughts going into the rematch here in the final one?
I think ShoWTimE very like to gateway opening, land into nurses. So the last game, my strategy was to again something like this. Yeah, and that is successful. Yeah.
I mean, you seem to really have gathered yourself, specifically, especially against ShoWTimE in that last game. I mean, we were pleasantly surprised through and through, though, from Sen's performance today, Chris.
Yeah, I always said that obviously you're an older player, you've been around for a long time. It seems that in general, when you come to a tournament, you're either like pretty good or not good at all. And you actually seem very good shape. Have you been practicing a lot lately, or?
Yeah, but I think my react not as good as before. I think maybe edge a little bit.
Your like reaction time?
Yeah. Just like before, maybe I only take like very easy to control my eyes on the small mini map. But now it's really hard for me to focus on the micro and the mini map
at the same time.
Yeah, so it's really hard for me.
Yeah, but in general, throughout the day, it seemed like as the day went on, you got better and better, skill-wise. You seem to be playing better and better. In this game in particular, obviously, you're in a lot of rough shape. ShoWTimE had a very big army. What's going through your mind there? You're up 1-0. you're losing that second game, do you just think, all right, Terraform, I have this strategy in my mind, or?
No, in my opinion, my strategy with mass learning in the early pressure, I think I very, very successful. But I have no idea why my Hydra didn't win. I think I thought I will be win by Hydra push after my Zing. Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe I should watch the replay.
Yeah, I mean, you'll have a chance to go back and look at that for sure. Of course, we're kind of speaking in hindsight. Now, of course, the third map, Terraform, a lot of us were wondering because just before your match, we saw ShoWTimE play against Jaedong, a very interesting game on Terraform. Did that bother you at all going into this game?
I think this strategy I tried before. I think only work when Porter's not going to forge first, just no cannon. Yeah, and I see he against Jaedong, he always like this style, never cannon first, so that's why. And I think this map is really hard to find my second base because a lot of players he need to find. So
that other gold base, your natural.
Yeah. And I make my hedge on is not gold base.
Yes.
So it's really hard for him to score. And that's why I'm successful.
Yeah, I mean, you played it off very well. Of course, a very decisive win for you in that last game. Well, once again, congratulations, Sen. Moving on to the round of 16, we will be seeing you play again in Poland in a couple weeks' time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for tuning in. It's time to see how all this happened today in Group C. We're already 3 groups in to the round of 32 in the Premier League, and as most people expected, Jaedong goes through. Looks to be playing quite well. We'll have to see if that can continue because he does have a long way to go in order to gain enough points to have a chance of attending the Global Finals at BlizzCon. Meanwhile, as we just spoke, Sen lost to ShoWTimE in the beginning, but climbed back in, decided, all right, well, now I know how ShoWTimE plays. I know his habits. I'm going to exploit that and be able to take the win for the final match. It's been a fun day, though, overall, Chris. I mean, we've had some interesting games, of course, especially we keep mentioning it, but that third game between ShoWTimE and Jaedong, I think most people are going to be talking about that today when they look back.
Crazy. I talked to Jaedong a little bit. It's a tough position either way for ShoWTimE. Just very, very stressful. And it sucks because I feel like he felt he was confident going up against Sen. I said he had that cute smile, and then he loses, and it's heartbreaking.
Man, yeah, it's something that, as a player, obviously, it's gonna haunt ShoWTimE a little bit because you're like, oh, should I not have taken that gamble against Jaedong? I was in such good shape. I played so well in game 2, but at the same time, like, all credit to him. Today was a really fun group because we saw players kind of strut their stuff. We did have those 2-1s come in. Jaedong lost that game too, and of course, we saw ShoWTimE take a game off of Sen again here. He beat him in the earlier match, so there's still a lot of hope. But today, the bottom line is the veterans went through. It's going to be Jaedong and Sen going through, but we still have another group to get through here in Burbank, California. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow we have Group D coming up. If you want to watch it live here in the studio, go ahead and type !tickets in the chat right now as you're watching the stream. If you've already got your tickets, we'll see you tomorrow. If not, tune in at home. We'll be back same time, same place for more WCS Premier League.